effectively one left-hand corner. So as we come through to start this next lap, T, why don't you take us through his qualifying
taking
lap?
it through. It goes through a final corner then, going down the pitch straight, very short pitch straight, and going down into turn 1. Misses the apex a bit, but shouldn't hamper him too much. Going through a fast section now through turn 2 and turn 3, keeping it flat as possible, and then a little kink of turn 4, and then that is the end of sector 1. Missing out for chicane there from lashing into the new and improved turn 5, giving you a faster exit onto this first long DRS straight, opening the DRS straight, reaching as high miles per hour as possible, and into one of the heaviest braking zones on the track, going down into 44 miles per hour, swinging it through the first part and the second part of the chicane, quickly on traction as possible, and opening the DRS for the second DRS straight. And that concludes the end of sector 2, and then through another changed part of the circuit, a long sweeping left-hander, gaining more speed and momentum, going down to the hotel section of 10, 11 and 12. And then turn 12, turn 13, turn 14, a lot more flowing and a lot more easier to keep the car around. And same with turn 15 here, a fast flat out corner, and into the usual turn 16, get on the power as quickly as possible, tight to the left, and you set your first lap time of a 24.6.
For a benchmark on medium tyres, that's not too bad, all things considered. See, Joseph Hales goes fastest now with a 1:24.3, but that was just on soft compound tyres. As we see behind, I think an Alfa Romeo, I think an Aston Martin was about to start, is that we see Hissy now in the no assist here coming through the final corner. What does he do in the Aston Martin? It's a 25.4. So Hissy obviously new to the tier, 82 champion, still getting a little bit of grip. Sort of focused towards this no assist setting. However, it's a decent lap nonetheless, as we see more cars now coming across the line. Colucci goes 4th, Destined goes 5th, and Richie goes last in the Haas. So a few more times starting to creep up now, but it's looking like a high 24 to a low 25 could be the cutoff point.
Hyper joking around saying it's the end of the season already. I'd hope not, because I haven't scored any points yet, so I'd hope not.
Oh dear, TD. You'll get the points someday, mate. It'll be the same day where I managed not to ruin the front wing during a race.
I'm hoping it'll be this race anyway.
I'm sure it'll be fine, mate.
Crosses the line with potentially a double warm-up lap, going with a 1:37. Richie going for a spin there, I think, at the chicane. Not ideal, as he hasn't set a proper lap time yet. Tamino has invalidated, so we'll go on board with IIRL S4 and see what he's doing for his lap.
He's on medium tyres as well, just like John, and it's to us, it doesn't look like the most impressive second sector, if I'm honest. He's doing a 55, where compared to John, which was, I believe, somewhere in the 53s. So still a little bit of work to do in that Red Bull at the moment. However,
I think he's on a cooldown lap because his DRS is off.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
So it might just be another warm-up lap. Maybe he made a mistake, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's got his all charged up now. So yeah, with that, this will be IIRL S4's actual time lap. So I may have jumped the gun in terms of commentary there, but at the same time, gets so close to the edge of the circuit there, taking all the space he can without going over the white line as he comes down into the new altered turn 5. So there's no awkward chicane there anymore. But it looks like he's gone purple there for the first sector. This could be a brilliant lap in the making for IIRL S4 in the Red Bull. Down the long straight where he's got DRS over the first of 2 DRS zones on this track. As he comes down to another awkward chicane, braking just before the 100-meter board, getting it all the way down to second before he upshifts there into 4th. Back end stepping out a little bit there. A little bit cautious there from the Red Bull. However, let's see what he does coming across the next sector now. And what does the game say? It looks like it's 53.5, so it's about another personal best. Another purple, rather, it seems. So
Looks
session
like
best,
a
I beg your
decent lap
pardon.
at a minute. With the
Yeah,
sector
absolutely.
times. So it could be in contention with that top 5 at a minute.
So for those watching TD, as we come across the end of IIRL J's lap, we should be seeing him comfortably through as the Haas spins off. Oh, thankfully he's ghosted, it doesn't get in IIRL J's way at all. But it puts him second with that time with a 24.9. So for those watching, why do you think people do the first round of qualifying on the medium tyre?
I think it's just to get a banker lap time, have the delta up, and then if I feel like they're not safe enough, I can go out on the softs and just improve. Some people like to have the delta time up just to make them feel more comfortable, I guess, but it's up to people's racing standards really. I don't really go out on the mediums because I can't trust myself, because I feel like I'm going to crash every single time. Oh, Deton going off there a little bit. But yeah, I think it's just either to try and save a set of softs or just to have a delta time up really, just in case. Better for you anyway. What are your thoughts on the improved parts of the track? The changed parts in Sector 3 mainly?
Well, my perspective, I think it's definitely better to race with. I think there's a lot less there's a lot less space taken up your mind, because when you played all the other games from about 2021, it's three more corners to negotiate. So taking that away, I think it's much easier on your mind. And if I'm honest, being able to come out of a corner such as the banked left-hander at the end of Sector 2, that feels so nice to drive when you hook up the car, compared to an awkward chicane, which is almost like silver porcelain-esque, where I have to be so careful of not taking too many liberties with the curbs, and I just absolutely lose everything. So I like the changes, and hopefully in this case they can give us some really good racing.
We will keep with 1010 then, who's on his first lap, the championship leader, as I was saying earlier. And I know he's been doing quite a lot of practice, because he obviously wants to try and go for this championship. This looks like a good lap time so far though, and could definitely get him quite near the top, using all the track limits as possible. And he does go over the top, 24.0 for the time being. And that is definitely a good benchmark so far. And I will do a little bit of research and try and find out what pole position was in NA last season.
While you're doing that, TD, I just noticed Hissy has gone 8th with a 25 flat on his medium compound tyres. So quite a respectable lap there from the Aston Martin, as we see what other drivers are out there at the moment on track. So we have the Red Bull of TRC Deton, and Richie is also on outlap as well in the Haas. Behind him is a Alfa Romeo, which I think is destined on a timed run.
Dayman
it looks like
goes
he's backed
11th.
off. Dayman does go 11th, yes. And Deton, yeah, he's backed off. So looks like he's restarting his lap, but he's overshot. So that's a poor start to his second lap.
Deton was actually on his outlap, but for some reason, as I said, deflated on Sunday. The game likes to get rid of the outlap bit going through Sector 3 for some reason. So if it says they're on a lap, and obviously they're going very slowly, then they're probably on the outlap. Because this game is absolutely wonderful. We had to get it in there at some point, didn't we?
I mean, there are times when it feels like there are more bugs in this game than an ant's nest.
Probably is at this point. And I have
oh dear,
concluded my research. 23.3 was pole last season. So anywhere near that, you're going to be in very good contention for pole.
But it's only Q1 now. There's still more and more time to find from everybody else out there. And oh, Richie M on his timed lap in the Haas spins his car, and he's going to have to get a move on if he wants to get a fresh set of boots on that Haas car. Speaking of time lapse as well, Deaton is coming around the final corner now in the Red Bull as he comes across the line. It's not going to set the world alight, but it is going to be a 26.3. So sadly, he's not quite there in terms of the cutoff point, and a little bit more work to do for that Red Bull.
I think he has got time just about to get into the pits and back out for his sake.
It'll be very
anyway.
touch and go though, won't it?
Yeah, be very touch and go, but I think he has just about enough time anyway.
Who else is out? We also got Flo out as well in the Alpine. So there are so many teams that start with the name A. It genuinely boggles my mind. You got Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Alpine, and Aston Martin. And with I tell you what, if Andretti comes in, I'm done. I'm going to be so mixed up with the A's.
I think we're going to have a lot of black cars on the grid as well. I think there's obviously the Alfa Romeo that's got black on it now. The McLaren possibly might have black on it again. Mercedes. Oh,
Flo's lost it.
There we go. That's. And I tell you what's done that.
I've never seen a car lose it there before.
I tell you what that is on this game. There's a bump just going through that corner, and it likes to send your car off for some reason.
Oh, it was like the one that was in Japan. Remember a few games ago.
It's going through turn 11. It just really unsettles the car for some reason. And it can make the car spin as Flu did just experience then. But yeah, it's like Japan, like you said, from I think it was last game, a couple of seasons ago, maybe. Can't actually remember when it was.
I think it was like 2019, 2020.
Something like that, yeah. I think it was on 2020. I remember it being on 2020. I just don't know whether it was on 2021 or not, but that was an awful bump.
I don't think it was on 2021, no.
It was an awful bump, and this one is quite awful because it can really unsettle the car, especially on the braking.
So Wiggles reckon Haas looks good in black, and to be honest, Wiggles, I looked at that thing and I thought to myself, am I just looking at a Porsche?
I really like the Haas at the minute, but I feel like I'm going to get really confused with the Haas, maybe McLaren, the Alfa, and possibly Mercedes, because Mercedes has been giving little hints that they might be going back to black. So if we have about 4 cars on the grid, I may get confused at some point.
But I would love if Mercedes go back to black, because I thought, particularly in the 2021 car alongside the teal blue as well, it just looks so nice.
The W13, no, the W11 was absolutely amazing. It was just one of the best cars I've seen anyway.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Wiggles again, because that Red Bull launch, it took about 50 minutes to get to the actual car, which was exactly the same.
Trev's on a slow lap anyway. Who is on a lap? Let's have a look. Padge isn't. Hissy might be. Hissy's on a lap and he's on the medium tyre, so he must have some confidence.
Next one's to start a lap is F1 XL Kimi, and this will be his only opportunity.
I'm going to be saying that a lot of times. Kimi, you will not have the drink.
I miss Kimi. I miss Kimi so much.
Hissy going for a spin there.
And F1 XL Kimi is up by 2/10 on his best time so far. So as long as things go well, we could see him dip into the 49s, and that should be able to get him through into the next round of qualifying. Prevanel is also on a lap as well in the Mercedes, and also looking to improve on his slot.
Ooh,
but the Kimi is the first to turn. But he's lost it.
And that is definitely its qualifying over.
Yeah, That's exactly what I was saying about the curbs. You take too many liberties with them. See where it dips over at the side? You take too many liberties with the curbs, and you are getting sent straight to the Shadow Realm.
Too late to set a lap time. And Prev, 3 tenths down on his lap time, so it ain't looking too good at the minute for Prev. And we could see him going out. He needs a mega final
sector, and he comes into it now. And there he is. It looks very, very tidy on board with the Mercedes.
It looks solid, yeah, but it's whether it'll be enough. It needs at least a 10th.5, so it needs quite a big, massive improvement here. But what can Prev do? Crossing the line, and he does.
14th.
A good final sector, and that means Kimi is out. And his first
Flo
race.
is also down by 2 tenths on his current lap as well, as he now comes through the final sector with Kimi out and Deaton still on a time lap. I think he's gone slowly though, but Flo's lost it again. So I think Prev may be safe.
Well, Destined is on a lap, and I'm not sure what Rich is doing at the minute. But Destined is definitely improving at the minute. So
Richie's invalidated.
So I think Prev is just going to about get away with it. It's just whether Flu's going to get through. Destined then to the line.
We're about to find out. And Flu is out.
And he is out. I think that's a little bit of a shock from what we've seen from Flu this season. And I think he'll be a bit annoyed as well that he's only out by 7/1000ths of a second.
Oh, that is pain. That is pain.
I want to be in that car next year. But anyway, 10-10 at the top once again, with a 24-0. Joseph Hill's coming in P2 and saying it was a terrible lap, so he's doing another tech there. TV8 Tamino on the mediums in P3, Deflated with P4, and Mr. Wiggles in P5. And we see 6 drivers going through on the medium tyres, but it will be that guy, Richie, Deaton, Kimi, and Flu going out in Q1.
The Haas of Deflated Wee. I'll take
you
through his first lap. Yeah, absolutely. Taking a lot of track. As the Haas comes through into the first corner, let's have a look at his entry. Just about on the right spot and rides the curve as well. So you obviously have your right height sorted out in that Haas. Comes down into turn 3 and then 4, and coming down to the reprofile turn 5, braking just before the 50-meter board, turning in quite early but keeping it in 4th gear just to help it with traction when he comes out on the exit, opening the DRS zone. Now this is where the ERS, the DRS, everything open. You're just creeping for as much speed as you can, hoping you've taken off enough front wing as he comes down into the chicane, braking just before the 100-meter board. Keeping it in 4th, very sensible for traction, and with that actually helps with cornering speed. So you want to keep the gears quite high depending on the arc of the corner. Down into the next sector, as we see 52.9 for a second sector time. So this is looking to be a good lap for Deflated Wee, but he runs wide and he's invalidated after I say that. Oh,
commentator's curse. It's kicked in.
Why always me? Why always me?
Tim will be here soon saying, it's not real, it's not real.
Yeah.
Destined will be the first to set the lap time then. On the mediums, 25.3, and immediately gets beat by John.
23.9. You said it was a 23.3 last time out in Abu Dhabi, didn't you?
Yeah, 23.3 was Pearl. And obviously we are on the best track conditions yet, so could see definitely still a lot of improvement. Oh, Tamino there, just I'm not quite sure what Tamino's doing here, but it's a bit naughty. And we have
Didn't Nicholas
follower.
Latifi do that once?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things that Nicholas Latifi has done. He probably has at some point.
Oh man, so agreed. Key11, thank you so much for the follow.
That
and
is
that is
Timmy.
600, isn't it?
600 followers. And yeah, thank you all for reaching 600 followers. If you said that a year ago, I'd say you're lying, to be honest. But yeah, that is a great achievement from you all. So thank you all greatly for the support.
As we see, we've got a few offences here, people taking out the braking boards, which sadly is far from ideal. We just have to mind everybody obviously not to do that, because this is no assist here, and taking out those breaker boards is going to be very detrimental.
Ooh.
And it looks like Hissy has to back out there.
Pad's just going for a little spin through the chicane. Just too much throttle there.
Yeah.
Very easily done anyway.
And Pad's just gone for another spin and doesn't meet and breaks his front wing.
Lovely.
Smaller Smiley has invalidated. And Wiggles it looks like he's on a time run in his Mercedes. As you see, Pad's trying to stay out of the way in his Aston Martin.
17.4 in the first sector. That's a very good first sector.
Oh, so but he's lost it.
Keeps it valid though.
Won't it? Yeah, just about. That'll keep him. It will lose him a couple of tenths though, so this will be far from ideal. He hasn't set a time yet, so it's not like it could get worse.
Yeah, he's lucky to keep that time. To be honest, it could have quite easily been invalid. So he's very, very lucky there. But like you say, it'll have lost him a few tenths definitely.
And going through the second sector, it wasn't the highest time either based on what we've seen before. But let's see what he does when he comes through the third sector, the hotel section, where it's so off camber, these series of left-hand corners. He keeps it very well planted though, as he comes round the final sector, and Wiggles is very sensible with his line. He takes a lot of curb, so that might compromise his exit somewhat. He comes across the line, and it's a 24-1, so solid lap.
Yeah, still a solid lap to say that he went off the track coming out of turn 5. But yeah, like you say, could have been fastest anyway. Not quite pole, we're not into Q3 yet.
Barjan is on pole position right now for Q2, so that should see him comfortably through.
Yeah, it should see him comfortably through. Tamino was the man who got pole last season, so he's trying to continue his good form, and his teammate goes 7th fastest, so it's a good showing there from Calucci.
Just notice he's got the 99 on his car, and I always think Antonio Giovinazzi's in that car. Italian Jesus himself.
He just was the Italian Jesus, wasn't he, really?
Well, mind you, in their place, they got Valtteri Bottas, who was a good qualifier, but not the best racer. And they also got Zhou Guanyu, who kind of had a season under the radar, but it wasn't exactly terrible, was it? But Iros J is actually on a time lap now in his Red Bull. He's just on the 53-1 so far for the second sector. Going through the hotel section right now, it looks very, very steady. It goes a little bit wide, and he has to back off, and that'll invalidate. That would have invalidated his time, but he had to give up some time in doing it. So it comes across the line. What does the Red Bull do? It's 5th fastest with a 24.2. So again, like Wiggles, it could have been faster.
Yeah, definitely timing it.
Okay. See what Greg does as he comes across the line. It's a 25.6 for the McLaren, so still some work to do to get out of that bottom slot.
But like we were saying with Deaton earlier, there's definitely timing it still. So I don't think Greg needs to worry too much at the minute. Red Bull, I know.
It's a very good second sector. Could be in the
Yes.
23s here.
Looking good, going over that bump, which is not very nice, I would say.
That's what flew out in the last sector.
Keeping it very planted there. I was watching deflated practice, and he's very good through them two left-handers under the hotel. He gets a snap there. Still goes fastest.
23.6, incredible time.
Very good indeed. And just so you all know, we have a featured driver back once again. This race, which is always lovely. We're like featured driver. And a featured driver this week is going to be this man in the Alpine, Joseph Hales, who is taking absolutely every single inch of the track. But we'll get onto the featured driver when we're at the 5-minute break.
It's a respectable time from Joseph Hales as of yet, as he comes across the hotel section now. But then we're going a little bit wide. It's going to be hard for him to judge braking spots with the brake meter boards being broken. I have to say that you need to do a lot better at managing that. But as he comes across the line, the sole Alpine in the session does a 23.9, which
should be comfortable, I think, but you say that and people go and beat every single time, so we can't just say it's quite comfortable yet.
I mean, half a tenth of a second covers from 3rd to 5th.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And Wiggles goes fastest. And as we said, time in the pocket there for Wiggles, and he does beat it.
Well, we said it could have been better, and that's the proof. But anyway, let's not get bogged down with the incidents too much, as we see the Aston of Hissy coming round the hotel section here, taking a lot, and he's invalidated, so he is now at risk of not going through.
Because Prev's in the pits, and that is destined and Dayman not improving, so Colucci is alright really. He does improve, but he didn't need to, but he's improved. And there'll be a P10 for this qualifying.
But at that point, you'll want to finish the lap, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like we got, thank you, Mano, the Epic, for the support. So great to see you on board with the channel, mate, and thank you for joining us. Though the Epic asked, can he join the league?
If you, I will just put his name in the chat for you. If you send this man a message, send him a whisper on Twitch, then he should be able to get you sorted. It's a legend himself, Pajestic. Just send him a whisper and he should be able to get you sorted. But it is Mr. Wiggles P1, Deflated Wee P2, Tamino P3, John P4, Joseph P5. And the final ones going out will be Padge, Dayman, Greg, Destined and Prev. As he rounds the final corner now to start his first lap, and we'll set the benchmark for everyone else to try and target. Take us through this lap, Spark.
Sure thing, buddy. As we see Wiggles coming now through turn 3. Looks very, very tidy as we see to come across the next sector. 17.5. So it's very strong opening sector there from Wiggles. And here we go into the long straight where we had DRS and everything open, trying to get as much top speed as you can before you come into the next braking zone, which is just before the 100-meter board, just as we see here, dropped down all the way into 4th gear, just about getting it stopped. in time with just about hitting the apex. A very well driven corner there from Mr. Wiggles as he comes down into the next straight with DRS zone open now into sector 3. And the second time is a 53.0, so it's not the fastest that we've seen as of yet. There's still enough room for the Mercedes to improve. Into the hotel section, the long technical bit where it's so easy to lose the back end if you take too much with the curve. We're onto the off-camber dual left-handers, one after another through the hotel section. And the Mercedes comes round the TP corner through the penultimate round now and into the final corner. I know you're a fan of that one, but are we going to be a fan of Mr. Wiggles' lap as he comes across the line? And he does a 23.5. That's a
better
lovely
than last
time.
one then. Better than his last lap. So very good for Mr. Wiggles there. John John's second.
Last time, TD.
Say that again?
2/10 off last year's pole time, TD.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Deflated is on a good lap time. I think he's a 10th up on Mr. Wiggles. So we could see this going even faster. Maybe close to that pole time. But a slow last sector.
His last exit there, he just got way too greedy with the curbs there. So I think that just ruined his exit speed. That would have cost him a few tenths.
RSJ then next to the line in the Red Bull, the champion of last season. Because as the line goes second fastest. And RSJ, I know, will be hunting down that pole position as he has never had a pole position in IIRL. You tell me how that's happened. I will never know.
Oh, and 1010 has lost it.
Oh dear.
On his time lap in the Williams, so he won't have the advantage of having a banker lap done.
He's just
but
gonna
he's still
carry
coming
on.
around to finish his time anyway.
I think he's just... He knows that he's obviously going to improve through Sector 3, but he wants to keep the delta time for most of the lap anyway.
Well, to keep him ahead, it means he'll be ahead of John Hales at least.
he liked to go for that little spin then, just a bit too much through turn 3. Hales going for maybe a double warm-up here in the Alpine.
He's done a much better lap now.
Yeah, going under the hotel section now, the tricky double left. Keeping it very close to the white line, but keeping it within the track limits. Through the flat right now, in 6th gear. Through the final corner he goes, into 5th gear, using out of the track limits, and goes 7th fastest for the time being. But what have had the most optimal tyres with double warm-up or mistake on his first lap.
Great, do you want to take them through this one, TD?
I will indeed then. Can Mr. Wiggles go any faster than what he first has done? He might need to, if he wants to be in contention for pole. Going through turn 1 then. Looking up the apex, but oh, good runs a little bit wide there. Taking too much apex, so maybe that is definitely his lap over. So he does have time to go around again, so maybe this is just tactical.
Mistake, but
Tamino then.
we got Deflated Wee actually that's just started his lap in the Haas.
Oh yeah.
But I say we'll stick with the Ferrari now that we're on board with
we'll
him.
stick with the Ferrari then. Through turn 2, through turn 3. Looking up the apex very bravely. Through a little kink of turn 4 and into turn 5. He is a smidgen down on his first sector, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem for him. Opens the DRS then, going down for long back straight. And we'll be wanting to get the best exit out of the chicane coming up. Hooks the inside very nicely. Gets good traction out of the chicane, using all the track limits possible, opening DRS. Keeping it tight to the inside. What will he do through sector 2? And he is a 10.5 up at the minute. So this is currently good enough to go on to provisional pole. To see yellow flag in sector 3, maybe just a bit of traffic getting out of the way. Oh, and he locks his brakes
gone wide there.
Yeah, locks his brakes, and that is his lap over really. And
that's curtains. I mean, he'll only get as high as 3rd now because he's he won't get the ERS back, and he's just
I don't exactly know what he's doing.
to go off track there.
I don't know what he's doing, but he just needs to go back to the pits. Anyway, John's on
John
the lap. Joseph Hales going fastest.
Oh, what a lap there. That's beautiful.
John coming to the line and can't beat Joseph Hales. So this is a very good lap time by Joseph Hales here. Could this be Joseph's first pole position? Mr. Colucci then going to be the next to the line. What can Colucci do? Goes 8th fastest. Good lap time there by Colucci. Who's going to be next to the line? He's here. 3 tenths up on his lap time at the minute.
It's a little bit wide going through that right-hander though, so that will definitely cost him some time, which is a shame because he's about 3 tenths up on his best as the Aston goes wide. How did he keep that uninvalidated?
He's lucky there, but he does go back above Colucci. 10-10 and the next on his lap time is a 10.5 up through the middle sectors, so we know he's definitely going to improve. But what can he do compared to Joseph Hales then? Championship lead, a bit of a wiggle there. And he does go above Joseph, just about. And that is going to be hard to beat. Ross comes to the line and can't improve. Smaller Smiley then is improving, but only goes to 7th fastest. Mr. Wiggles then next to the line comes into the pits. What can Deflated Wee do? Deflated Wee comes into the pits. And I think, unless Joseph is going for another lap, which he isn't, that is the end of qualifying. And I'm sure Joseph is heartbroken at the minute, because that would have been his first pole position, but it is 10-10.
Can we just appreciate how close that qualifying session was? I mean, if you look at the top 8, they're covered by just over 2 tenths of a second.
2 tenths.
That's unbelievable.
That's like esports, that. We are... IIRL is esports. Confirmed.
You heard it here, folks.
It's confirmed it's esports now.
Absolutely.
But that was a very good qualifying, I have to say. 10-10 on pole then. Continuing.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
From last week. Joseph has 3 poles. Oh, I thought he didn't have any, to be honest with you. But yeah, 10-10 on pole. Joseph in P2. John P3 for second in the championship. Mr. Wiggles P4. IIRL missing out once again by a smidgen for his first pole in P5. Tamino P6. Smaller Smiley P7. Deflated Wee P8. Hissy P9 and Mr. Clouchy in P10. But if you look at that,
I just noticed the top 8. They're all different constructors as well.
Yeah, very good. Top 9 actually.
To take us through the first lap.
I think I did last week, so you feel free to take this week.
Very well. I'm more than happy to. As we see 5 flights coming on. They've gone out. It's lights out and away we go. And it's not a bad start from TD, but Joseph Hales already takes the lead in the Alpine. Oh, there's contact. John is round. And oh, that's such a shame. Last week's race winner has made contact with John. Once again, another Ferrari's made contact behind. That's Tamino as well. So we got 2 of the big qualifiers today, and they are... Oh, that's such a shame for them. But sadly, first lap collisions do happen in Formula 1, and sadly, it has happened for 2 of our top qualifiers this particular round. However, this man, Joseph Hales in the Alpine, has made an absolutely blistering start. And IIRL behind 10-10 in 4th place in the Red Bull. Deflated Wee is up into 5th. Prev is up into 6th. Hissy fights with the Ferrari of Colucci for 7th and 8th. Smaller Smiley is falling down to 9th place, trying to stay out the way of the contact. Flu has gotten up into 10th position in the Alpine. So both Alpines occupying the top 10. If the top 10 were revealed, the rest of the field would be in an Alpine sandwich at the moment.
Yeah, very chaotic start at the minute. The top 2 in the championship making contact. One staying in 3rd, one going down to 19th, and that'll be definitely one for the stewards to have a look at. Oh, and to Mr. Colucci going round there at Latifi corner, and he's in the middle of the track there, so that isn't optimal for everyone else, but that is probably the worst start for the Ferrari boys, down to 19th and 20th with Ferrari land right behind this circuit.
It had to happen to 2 Ferraris, didn't it?
It did, it absolutely did.
You see a majority of the field starting the race on the hard compound tyre, so the strategy very similar to the French Grand Prix last time around. And here we see Wiggles stuck right behind the Alpine of Joseph Hales. As we see with DRS coming up on the next lap, be sure that there'll be plenty of infighting coming along. And this is a track where you have to be very careful with energy management. It's kind of specific in the places where you have to use them, like these two straights. However, when this game in general, it's very hard to recover energy when you're around sort of 10%.
Ooh,
so you've got to make sure. Oh, look at that.
IIRL getting past her on the outside of 10-10 there. Oh, and IIRL spins! Oh, and 10-10 spins!
And now 10-10's lost it!
They both just span on the exit of the same corner. And that is IIRL down to 12, and 10-10 not losing quite as many, going down to 8th place. And that is quite unusual for them two, from this season anyway. You don't really see them both spinning at one corner, but that is...
What is going on this race? There's only been 2 laps and already plenty of stuff happening. As we come on board with Mr. Wiggles, that was a bad exit there from Joseph Hales in the Alpine. It's about 2/10 now, the gap between the Alpine and the Mercedes as they come round into the next sector here. Only 3/10 separates the pair of them. But with Mr. Wiggles getting a brilliant run outside of the corner, I have a feeling this could be game, set and match before they come into the next sector. DRS is open, and the Alpine can do very little to defend. He sensibly doesn't fight him too much there. We'll get a second bite of the cherry when DRS is activated again for the next sector. But with that, Mr. Wiggles for now gets himself into the lead in the Mercedes.
See what Joseph can do then going down this second DRS straight. Can he get close enough to gain up to Mr. Wiggles? It looks like he's gaining, but he just isn't quite gaining enough at the minute. So that'll be Joseph sticking in P2 with deflated wheel sniffing all over the back of that Alpine. I tell you who has had a good start. Prevenel was knocked out in Q1, I think it was, and Q2 it was, and he's already up into P4. I know he is on the mediums, but that is an absolutely brilliant start from Prev.
We see mistakes happening all across the field as people not really gelling with these hard tyres, it seems, despite them being arguably the best for strategy. As we see Prevenel going very wide in his Mercedes off the back of that corner. The top 4 pulling out a gap from smaller Smiley behind. Hissy doing very well in 6th place in the Aston Martin. Let's see how the dynamic changes up in front, as Joseph Hales is 7/10 behind, so it's not going to be about him overtaking the car in front, but it's more going to be depending about the car from behind him. But with deflated wheels, DRS as well, looks like both cars are at a stalemate coming into the next sector.
I thought deflated were going to go into the back of Joseph there, but just managed to get it slowed down enough. But he's got a mega exit compared to Joseph. And they're going side by side now, going down the DRS straight, and it'll be hard for deflated to go around the outside here on this long sweeping right. He's trying to keep it, but Joseph just has the inside line going through that corner. But deflated trying to get a switch back on Joseph, but he just can't quite get close enough and has to stay behind for the time being.
For Joseph Hales to only be 6/10 behind, well 7/10 now behind the Mercedes after all that defending, I say fair play. It's very hard to get away in this game when everyone is quite equal on pace. So as you see coming down into lap 5, only 8/10 between the top 10 at the moment. Hales cannot afford to let Wiggles get away with that DRS advantage being so powerful down here. It's nearly a second though, so as again Prev runs wide in his Mercedes. Let's see what happens coming into the next straight. He's going to have DRS, so it looks like he should be safe for deflated wheel. He just needs a better exit coming out of that chicane.
It does look to have had a quite even exit compared to deflated, so should be alright into this DRS straight. It's just whether deflated can get as good an exit as last time. He has got a very good exit, but we have seen good straight line speed from Joseph, and it looks like it again. Deflated He's right on the back of him, looks towards the outside. Can't quite get the move done at the minute. Oh, and nearly has a spin
a little
there.
bit of a mistake there.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have to say, brilliant bit of defensive driving from Joseph Hales.
Yeah, we've seen it from Joseph. Oh, Prev running a little bit wide there. Yeah, but we've seen it from Joseph in the past. He's very good at defending his position. And he will do anything to keep this second place at the minute.
Well, it looks like behind, John has actually fallen down to 17th. Oh, and looks like behind him, Richie Yen manages to get out of the way. So that's John back up to 16th. IIRL J is now into 8th place. So I got a feeling there'll definitely be an incident reported by the stewards there. And I have to say, penalty may be coming IIRL J's way. Gap stabilises at 8/10 between the top two. Which means Joseph Hales is safe, at least for this first straight, but we know what kind of exits Deflated we can get in his Haas behind him. With everyone going to stage using their energy somewhat. Oh, and that's a bad exit there from Deflated Wee. That's going to leave him vulnerable because he will not have DRS to protect him from Prevenel.
Yeah, no idea. DRS from Deflated. It does look alright for the time being.
The smaller Smiley just coming back. He's only 1.4 seconds behind the slot, and Hissy doing very well to stay with the Alfa Romeo in 6th place. 10-10 recovering to 7th place. IIRL J behind in 8th. That guy in 9th, and TV8 Tamino recovering for a spin, currently in 10th place.
Been very chaotic so far this race, but the top 4 keeping it clean so far. Smaller Smiley trying to catch up to the top 4, and he's just got about into the DRS at the minute, but he'll be wanting to stay with that going into the DRS detection zone, and I don't think Trev has just missed out on it, I think, and I think Smaller Smiley might have got it, so.
Crucially for Joseph Hales, he's 3/10 ahead, but Deflated Wee will have DRS coming into the corner, and he is flashing behind the Alpine. Can he defend this? He goes round to the outside, forces him to do the switchback, but oh, that's another brilliant exit there. It looks like the Haas will have him fully checked off. Lovely bit of tactical driving there from Deflated Wee, and he's got the move done way before they go over to the corner. The Haas up to 2nd.
Lovely stuff there from Deflated. Up to 2nd now from 80's starting place in 8th, and I'll be chasing down that Mercedes and going for a race win once again.
Looks like things may well be starting to stabilise in the top run as we see Wiggles ahead by just over a second, so all it needs is a small mistake and that'll get Deflated Wee well and truly back in the game. As we see, Tamino's made another mistake. I think both Ferraris have spun. It is just not going well for the Scarlet cars at Maranello today, and Richie gets the first trap penalty of the race.
And I think we'll see a few of them today. I wouldn't quite rule that out of being the last one. Small Smile event is even closer to Prev now, and it is 5/10 to Prev, so he is now in contention with this top 5, so don't rule Small Smiley out of this race.
And crucially, he's dropped Hissy, so it looks like Hissy must have made a bit of a mistake one of the prior laps, either that or he's just lost pace. But the top 5 running virtually nose to tail up at the front.
This is a very good driving there, how close they can all run to each other for 8 laps so far. If we keep this on for the rest of the race, I will absolutely love it. And I think crucially for Small Smiley, Trev out of DRS.
Very wide there for Deflated Wee.
Trev out of DRS, maybe his medium's just wearing a little bit now on lap 8. could be coming towards Smaller Smiley now, getting towards that crossover. And this could definitely give the advantage to Smaller Smiley.
Prev goes wide again. He's got to be careful of doing that, because it's almost as if, like, if you go that wide, you could gain advantage from a traction perspective. And it looks like another spin for Tamino in the Ferrari, and it's safe to say his race, unless there's a safety car, is more or less in the mud. It's a shame, really, because he did very, very well in qualifying to get to where he got.
This hasn't been the race for Tamino. Hasn't quite really been the season so far compared to last. But with how good of a driver Tamino is, you can't rule him out of anything.
Speaking at the front, only 3/10 now between the two leaders. Is Deflated Wee going to go for it here? Doesn't look like he is now. But a battle shaping up between the top two, who are dropping Joseph Hales at the moment. Only 4/10 between Wiggles and Deflated Wee going into the hotel section. It's slowly starting to become a two-horse race as the Alpine drops off.
The Alpine just runs wide then. That's going to lose him even more time. It could make him very vulnerable going down the back straight to Prevenel, as that guy gets past Destined, and Greg will be wanting to try and get past at some point in the McLaren. Oh, and Deflated there runs a little bit wide, too much curve there, and Tamino gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. I don't exactly know what he's doing at the minute. It's another 3-second time penalty. It's not been ideal.
He's trying to get back. He's trying to get back to the pits, but the problem is, he's got severely worn out tyres, and frankly, he's just might just be banking on a safety car to get back into it. But this is far from the race that Tamino would have wanted. I don't know whether he's actually got damage on this car, because his line through each of the corners is so rough.
Yeah, it doesn't look very smooth at the minute, does it? It's just not ideal. And he does come into the pits, possibly to retire now.
Yeah.
Yeah, speed into the pit lane.
There's no recovering from that, is there?
And he ain't retiring at the minute for some reason, but changes his front wing, so and he has gone onto a soft tyre, so maybe just wanting to get a fastest lap or something, I don't know. Anyways, Joseph Hales, like you were saying, dropping off even more, and he's now 1.7 seconds behind, and has the Mercedes and there's Alfa Romeo right behind him. Joseph Hales with a blinking red light, the two cars behind without one, so that may be a disadvantage for Joseph. We have a yellow flag at sector 1. Sector 3 I mean, and I think it's Dayman maybe spinning at the final corner.
Possibly, yeah.
It's definitely an ideal.
The Smaller Smiley, I think, may have just lost out a little bit thanks to that ghosted Ferrari there, because it looks like he's dropped, just nearly 7/10 now behind the Mercedes, who's now having DRS from the Alpine. And I have to say, Prev is doing well to hold on to Joseph Hales, given that his mediums will surely be much more worn than the hards on Joseph Hales. Yellows in sector 1 again.
That's Colucci retiring. Battle for 6th then. Hissy and 1010, the two Scottish men, have a good relationship, I'm sure, and give each other...
Bit of a mistake there from Hissy.
Yeah, not ideal there. 1010 definitely wanting to try and get past for his championship. That guy getting a penalty there. Demon says, come on the Scots. I'm sure he's liking this race. 6th and 7th so far for the Scots.
You can take my position, but you'll never take my freedom. And Richie M looks like to have a moment in his Haas as we see the battle heating up between these two for 6th place. The Scottish Civil War across the back straight in Abu Dhabi. Let's see how the Williams fares against the Aston Martin in a straight line. DRS is open.
Tintin is gaining, but not too much at the minute.
Yeah, he just needs to keep it clean as Hissy goes wide, and that is going to set up Williams brilliantly for an overtake.
He already goes to the right to defend, making sure Tintin don't get the slipstream. Tintin then going to the inside. Oh, I guess he could just be making it an easy overtake there for Tintin.
Yeah, I think it was almost like Hissy kind of let him through there.
Possibly just sensible driving, just trying to have his own race.
But yeah, I think he knows the fight's not with 10-10 there. So Hissy has always been a very sensible driver, especially since I've raced with him, and just making sure to stay out of people's way, which is obviously the courteous thing to do.
Hissy is one of those drivers that you'd love to race against. He is one of the cleanest, I'd say, and one of definitely the most sensible.
I mean, he was AT2 champion for a reason.
It don't come that easy, does it?
Nope. Consistent as ever. When I was racing him last season, I have to say, he was always up front and it was just so consistent with everything. So Prevanel may be vulnerable here. As you see, yellow says Tamino has yet another off in his Ferrari.
Oh, Prev. Yeah, Prev, as you say, Small Smiley is literally creeping at him.
To the inside.
Gets it done nicely.
Go. And he'll have DRS from Joseph House in front, so he'll have something to answer for it. Prev can't fight it. I think his mediums are starting to die. Demon Johnson has got a nice bit of perspective on you and Showers in the chat. TD, have you seen?
That's just rude.
Smaller Smiley goes wide. And now Prev's all over the back of him now.
Just take over for a sec.
Sure, no worries. So there we go. We have Smaller Smiley coming round in the final corner there in 4th place. 10-10 now passes Prevanel, who now comes into the pits. As, oh, and Smaller Smiley has spun it! That is such a shame. The Alfa Romeo, in all his infinite wisdom, has dropped down to 7th place after spinning the car, and that is seriously going to hamper his race chances there, as Tamino once again, I think he's lost his front wing, so it looks like his race has gone absolutely Pete Tong down there. And to come down to the front, it's a dead fight between Mr. Wiggles and Deflated Wee. Deflated Wee still having DRS. Tamino gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And he must be thinking about retiring at this point because there's so much in terms of damage that he's done to his car. He's got 26 seconds worth of penalties. As you see, Smaller Smiley behind is now dropped to 7th. Ross J is now fighting Hissy for 5th place. And this could be quite tasty.
Two very sensible drivers. No assist champion and AT2 champion.
Clash of the Champions.
Indeed. Lap 15 then. Halfway through this race. Mr. Wiggles leading away with Deflated in P2. Joseph in P3. 10-10 in P4 with a bit of a recovery drive so far, and Hissy with a very strong drive in P5 at the minute. Only Mr. Colucci retiring so far, but we still have a long way to go, so we could see a lot of shake-up. Camino getting another 5-second penalty. I don't exactly know what he's doing at the minute. Oh, IIRL going down the inside.
Oh, this is getting close, isn't it? Look at that.
Nice move from IIRL there, but Hissy getting a lovely exit there. Could have
He's blinking though.
contention.
He's low on energy. Kissy could come back here if he uses a little bit more himself if he's got it.
He has the DRS, but he just doesn't seem to be close enough. Or maybe just, like he said with 1010, just choosing not to fight. Being the sensible driver that he is. Oh, and 1010 spun. 1010's just spun. And
that
we've
drops the
got...
Williams down.
Well, I think we've got a safety car. Because 1010 hasn't got a front wing. We've got a VSC. And I think we're going to see a lot of pit stops here. Wiggles in.
Early people coming
Deflated
in. So Wiggles is in.
Out.
Deflated Wee is in. Joseph stays out.
Loss comes in. Hits it in. 1010 obviously going to be in. Smaller Smiley staying out. Interesting. That guy following his teammates and may just be getting double sacked a bit.
Well.
Destined...
That could save this race actually.
I'm not quite sure why. The top two stayed out anyway, but it has gone in. Yeah,
VSC is over, so we'll have saved some time.
Well, Deflated Wee and Mr. Wiggles got out literally just as the safety car went in, and Mr. Wiggles is already past Smaller Smiley. And I'm sure Deflated will be wanting to follow him if he wants to go for the win, but look at the gap now. Mr. Wiggles,
he's got
11 seconds
to clear
Joseph.
him now. And it looks like that's what he's doing.
And he has done. Gets past.
Mind you, 0.6 of a second the gap between Wiggles and Deflated Wee, so actually it looks like it stays fairly neutral, the gap between them, I have to say.
Look at the gap though to Joseph and Mr. Wiggles. 10.5 seconds now. Joseph still has to pit.
He's lost out big time.
He's lost out a good, I'd say 7 seconds at least with a pit stop, and Mr. Wiggles and Deflated on fresh tyres are going to be closing even more.
His only hope now is to stretch out the hards into softs and just take advantage of whatever blinding pace he's got at the end of the race. Staying out in that BSC has robbed him any chance of getting a podium, probably.
Well, it'll be close whether he comes out in front of IIRL. The current gap at the minute is 22 seconds. So it'll be very close whether he gets out in front of IIRL, but I think it's definitely going to be a battle between the Red Bull and the Alpine.
The 1010 also having to change his front wing in his Williams. So he and 1010, so he and John rather, 1010 and John, quite similar names in a way, they just repeat themselves.
Top two.
They'll be locking horns again as well.
Yeah, the top two in the championship, right behind each other now. And I'm sure Mr. Wiggles will be loving this, because this is going to gain him a lot of points in the championship to try and get into the fight for the championship. I think it was about 23 points, 27 points behind. Currently gain 20.
So he'll gain 16 on 1010 and 17 on John as this stands. So
well, he's going to get the lead now as Joseph Hales just pits. So he is currently gaining 23 points. So this is definitely what Wiggles likes to see anyway, as Tamino goes for another spin.
Smiley has come in.
And it's going to be close here between Joseph and IIRL. Joseph is going under the pit lane.
Close.
IIRL is coming out now. And he's just ahead, but he is on cold tyres. And this could be contention for IIRL to get in front for that podium.
And look at the difference that's making as you see him across the corner there. The crucial thing for Joseph Hales is that because he'll come into the pits, he'll have that little bit more energy. You can see him weaving to try and get some heat into the tyres. IIRL is flashing behind, so he's almost out of energy.
Oh, and Joseph runs deep there, and that gives
a tiny bit of contact.
A bit of a squeeze there, and that could give Hissy a chance behind IIRL, and he's going for the move around the outside of the Red Bull. Can he quite get the move done? Sticks it to the outside, gets very close to contact, but it is a very tricky to go corner to go around the outside there, and just stays behind for the time being. But Irish J is right on the back of that Alpine and wants that podium.
These three are so close to each other. That's almost where the battle is now. It's become a two-horse race at the front between the Haas and the Mercedes, but the fight for the podium is really ramping up. Prevanel, I don't think will be able to do much, given that he's on hard tyres, but however, coming to the end of the race, he should be mated with a chance as long as they don't get too far away from him.
Yeah, Joseph has really lost out on his chance of going for the win here. Down to P3 and 15 seconds off the lead now, so that safety car definitely ruined his chances, but the top two will be loving it.
Where's Michael Massey when you need him?
Get Latifi on the grid.
Look, Latifi is... We know Latifi would beat them all. He would drive at 1% power just to give everyone a fighting chance.
Go Latifi, as we say.
We do miss Go Latifi. Ross J.
Challenging once again, and they're both flashing now.
Yeah.
So even fight.
They're gasping for energy now. I have to say, the Ferrari of Tamino, at this point, is making so many mistakes, and frankly, it's you're almost waiting for a VSC to happen at the moment. He should probably retire to save. And he goes for another spin again in his Ferrari. It's far from ideal in terms of what he's doing. And a fight between John and Smaller Smiley around the hotel section. The McLaren's making it sticky as it comes round the inside.
Oh,
lovely stuff there.
Very close.
Smaller Smiley takes it, I have to be honest, going around the outside there. It's very rarely we get racing there, so brilliant stuff there from the Alfa Romeo. Maybe it's the livery reveal day that's given them a bit more spring at this step, I don't know.
Very good racing there, we'd like to see that.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. But John, crucially for him, 10-10, his championship rival, is now in 7th place with him only in 9th. He's got to clear this Alfa Romeo, and I've got a feeling he'll do it just about now. As up front, things get a little bit heated between Deflated Wee and Mr. Wiggles. 4/10 between them now. 3rd, 4th, 5th covered by just over a second. Prev sitting comfortably in 6th. Let's see what 10-10 can do to catch him in 7th. He's on medium tyres, so it'll be a little bit faster.
Irish J keeps getting about a 10th and a half behind Joseph, but he just can't quite get close enough with the straight line speed.
It's a different kind of dirty air to last year, isn't it? Where you can get closer, but when you do get close, the dirty air is actually more intense than it was last year, it seems.
Joseph Hales is 15 seconds behind Wee because Wee and Wiggles decided to pit under the VSC and Joseph didn't overtake. So they gained probably about 7-8 seconds.
I have to say, Deflated Wee has dropped back by quite a bit. He's 1.4 seconds back now, so that's going to give Wiggles just that little bit of extra breathing space.
Yeah, Wiggles will be loving that.
Let's back to Joseph Hales and IIRL J. Here comes the Red Bull down into the next hole. The Alpine protects his inside line, which is brilliant. However, that's going to set him up, well, the Red Bull up very nicely coming across the back straight, and that is the exit that IIRL J needs if he wants to make that overtake work. Kissy goes round. It looks like he's made a bit of a mistake there as the Red Bull goes round the outside towards the outside of the left-hand corner. And, oh, that is so close there. Almost like synchronized swimmers. And
that is
from IIRL
absolutely beautiful.
What
a move.
That is move of the race. Move of the race.
That is brilliant from IIRL J, and that gets him up into that podium position that he would be absolutely loving.
That's absolutely insane. What an overtake that was. You love to see it.
Wow. flabbergasted.
That'll certainly take RSJ up in the championship.
He needs this kind of race if he wants to try and get in contention for the championship. And it's just all going well, but he isn't quite comfortable yet, Joseph Hales. He needs to just keep an eye out on the back of him, because he could go for a move here. Joseph isn't quite close enough just yet.
RSJ choosing not to cover the inside line, and that's why, as you see over the exit there, it's going to give him all the breathing space that he needs. And no matter what he does now, when coming onto the straight, as you see there, it's just more than enough to cover them off. And what is that Ferrari doing?
I don't really know what Tamino's doing now. He might as well just retire, but yeah, I'll just let him do his own thing.
I mean, doing your own thing is fine, but when you could potentially distract the leaders from a good fight, then that's not on.
Just have a watch of Tamino to see what he's doing for me. Ooh, 10.3 seconds.
That ain't good.
Could potentially stop him from getting Prev here. He's only a second behind, but he's only got about 6-7 laps to get past and pull 3 seconds. That is going to be quite a task, because Previ is a very good driver.
But 10-10, knowing that he's still got that advantage in the championship to John, he'll want to get a move on in any case. He won't have, doesn't look like he's got the DRS this time around, but he'll have it for the next straight. Well, here's he drops back a little bit in 5th place. We have 10-10 in the Williams. He'll have, crucially, he'll have DRS coming into the straight. So ideally set up an overtake for the next lap, but those medium tyres, he's making them work very, very well. And to go back to the front, and Joseph Hales can't quite get the move done. He sits in nicely behind, but as you'll see, both cars flashing, so they're absolutely gasping for energy.
Prev and 10-10.
And this is...
Oh,
yeah.
I thought a contact. Oh, I think there might have been slight contact there between 10-10 and Prev. 10-10 really wanted to get this move.
No, I think it
now.
looked like they just got away with it.
He's really wanting to get this move.
Now, when Prev goes wide. So there we go. I think we'll see an overtake coming into the next straight. As you see the gap up front, it's still 0.3 of a second between IIRL and Joseph Hales. The others again in Sector 3. That, I believe, is Damon. Oh, it's 0.3 now between the Alpine and the Red Bull. This is exactly what Joseph Hale wants. But the exit's not quite there. He'll be 0.2 behind. And IIRL very wise to cover his line the way he has. But the exit he's got has just been brilliant there. Constantino, you have to be so much more wary of it. Coming into a no assist race, because you don't have that reference point at which to brake.
I don't think
very clean driving.
I don't think Joseph could have been anywhere closer to IIRL without any bloody contact, because the camera angle that we got, he was literally centimetres from hitting IIRL.
Well, I have to say, fair play to the pair of them for keeping it clean.
Yeah, absolutely. He ain't gonna give up this podium chase, so Joseph.
And we'll come up to 5 laps to go. Oh, and look at that. The Williams goes wide there, so it's almost like it's becoming a bit of a brawl between the two now.
Yeah, that's true, Tim. Saying that if Prev carries on going wide, someone could report him for gaining an advantage, quite possibly. Prev just needs to be careful. So it can be reported.
Oh, and again, so close between P3 and P4, but IIRL J's got another good exit. Better exit from Joseph Hales this time around. And Tamino once again causing yellow flags within the sector. He honestly should just retire at this point because he's not doing anything to help the cars out in the field and giving everyone a slight warning that there could potentially be a safety car. He's 39 seconds of penalties and God knows how many laps down behind from the rest of the field. Frankly, I think it's time to call it a day.
Yeah, it ain't very sensible from Tamino. I like to see people finishing the race, but this just is a bit silly now.
And Prevenel is still ahead of 1010. I thought 1010 would have had the move done by then, but that's going to bring John much closer to P6 potentially.
Yeah, I was going to say, because John were 8 seconds behind Prev and 1010. Gap is now 5 seconds, and if 1010 wants to keep in front of John with his penalty, then he needs to get past Prev as soon as possible.
That's a very good point. That will change everything in terms of the championship as well. Another yellow was Sector 3. It looks like one of the Alfa Romeos has gone for a spin, and his name is Destined. Oh no! That's such a shame. There's contact there between the Red Bull and the Alpine. It's such a shame because they were keeping it so clean up at that point. But sadly for Joseph Hales, I think there may be maybe an incident report to the stewards there. Yeah, I feel that.
And that
it was such a shame because they was doing so well on keeping that clean up to that point.
This will be a loving that if Joseph gets a penalty. Oh, 10-10 now. Finally getting the move done on Prev. And like I was saying,
he needs to get a move on though if he wants to save.
But he could keep in front of John now, but it's whether he's going to be able to pull that 3-second gap to Prev. With only 3 laps left, it is going to be hard. But if we're not a driver who's fast enough to do it, I think 10-10 is one of them.
Obviously won the last race out in France, so there's nothing to say that 1010 doesn't have the pace to get this done. However, it's still a task with only 3 laps to go. He's got to do a second the lap and still make sure that John stays behind. And Prev is going to have DRS, surely, coming into the next few straights because he's only 4/10 behind. And speaking of 4/10 behind, that's how much Joseph Hales is behind IIRL J.
Once again.
As the podium drivers are still battling out, and you can see braking much earlier this time just to prevent the contact, so at least he's being a little bit more wary of driving there.
Oh, Prev looks towards the inside but keeps behind just for the time being.
Well, it looks like Prev should be able to hold on to that position. He's almost in a reverse situation as he was last time out in France, where he had the penalty and was fighting to inflated lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly some nice battles up across the field, aren't they?
It is absolutely. And Joseph, he's going to have nightmares of the back of a Red Bull. So I don't know how many laps it is now, but he's just stuck behind it and he can't seem to get back past to get that podium.
It's like sticking an Alpine in front of Lewis Hamilton. It's just a nightmare situation.
Lewis certainly has nightmares of the Alpine.
2 laps to go as we see IIRL J and Joseph Hales battling yet again as the lead stabilizes out in front. Yellows in Sector 1 now. There must be Richie trying to get out of the way. Oh, and here we go. The Alpine goes down to the inside. He's got the move done, but crucially, IIRL J, he's flashing there, so he hasn't got much in terms of energy. I think Joseph Hales, if he's got energy left, should have this covered, but he has a dreadful exit.
And look how close IIRL J is, but Joseph, I think maybe planting that ERS down, see him flashing now.
He's got to cover the inside, but can IIRL J pull off another brilliant outside overtake? No, he can't. And that keeps the Alpine in 3rd place. It's so close yet again. I have to say, apart from the slight contact earlier, those two
I've had a great race. Absolutely brilliant. just noticed there, deflated, getting a 3-second time penalty, so that is his race for the win definitely over. But we'll go to this man, Mr. Wiggles. Just your thoughts on Mr. Wiggles today, Spark?
Well, thoughts on Wiggles, he didn't quite have the qualifying he would have dreamed about. However, he's played this race to absolute perfection, and ever since he took the lead, he's virtually controlled the race. When he's had some opposition from Deflated Wee behind, it took a while for him to break, and Deflated Wee finally dropped back, and he finally got that penalty as well. Flawless driving from Wiggles, which, as I can see him now, will certainly help him in the championship. Certainly a deserved winner. Let's see him bring across the final sector now. TD, you see off his lap.
Yep, through the final sector then, through the long sweeping left-hander for the final time. Very strong drive from Mr. Wiggles. Going under the hotel section then, and this is going to be his first win of the season, I think. I don't think he won.
And crucially, 1010 is behind John. Sorry to interrupt. As Wiggles comes across the line.
And he is going to take the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix crossing line to take the win in Abu Dhabi. Deflated Wee coming home in P2, a very strong race from Deflated. Joseph Hales is going to finish in front of IIRL, but maybe going to be in a little bit of bother with the stewards. IIRL P4 for the time being. He see it with a brilliant race in P6. Trev with also an extremely solid race coming home in P6. John P7 then, getting past 1010 on the last lap after having a spin. That guy P9 just behind his teammate by a few seconds. Smiley coming home in the last points position. Greg
just misses out on 9th.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. Greg just missing out on points once again, which is unfortunate for Greg. Kimmy in his debut, a quiet debut I'd say, but nothing too wrong with his debut coming home in P12. Deaton in P13, and it'll be Padge. No, it'll be Destined coming home in P14 as Padge just goes for a little spin there through Latifi corner, as Spark loves to call it, and Tamino finishing P19, however many laps down. That is lovely, Padge. A lovely spin over the line there.
Very good.
That was good though. I enjoyed that. Another lovely AT1 race. I mean AT1, no assist race. I'm thinking of my tier. But it is Mr. Wiggles in P1. In the Mercedes with... it's some very interesting dance moves. I don't quite know what that was, but we'll let it slide. Coming home in P1 with Deflated Wee coming home in P2. Joseph Hills in P3. IIRL P4 with another solid drive from IIRL, as we know. He is probably one of the most consistent drivers in the race. And I will try and do some quick calculations for you all now while we have a look at this. Mr. Wiggles will now be only 3 points behind Miss 1010. John is now only a point behind 1010. That guy losing a little bit of what's the word? A bit of ground. That's it. And IIRL getting in a bit of ground up to 39 points. And that'll certainly suit IIRL, I imagine. But yeah, a very good race, I have to say.
It brings people very close to the chat. It brings about at least the top 3 so close together for the World Championship. But if we had to pick one for Driver of the Day, TD, who would be your pick?
I don't even know if I can decide that now. IIRL with a great recovery drive. Joseph extremely consistent. Wiggles deflated. I don't even know if I can pick now. I think we'll have to go off the stream and just pick one. I don't even know if I can choose one.
There was some consistent drives throughout the field, so it would be very hard for a pick. But the amount of control that Wiggles had over the race certainly makes him a top contender for that.
Yeah, definitely. Anyways, that is the end of another round in no assist for this season, round 4 of 18.